The woman in the cobalt cardigan slipped into my kid's pre-op room like she belonged there, tapped a few buttons on his IV pump, and strolled out, as if she were delivering flowers, not trouble. 10 minutes later, the surgeon slammed a big red switch alarms lit the hallway, and security called a code gray. I didn't need the freeze frame to recognize the face under that volunteer cap. It was our HOA president, the same woman who fined me for keeping my son's night feed alive. My name is Grant Walker, and I live in Bexley Ridge, a neat little pocket of Raven County, where the grass height has a committee, and your porch light has a bedtime Southgate preserve. HOA is the kind of outfit that quotes bylaws at a block party, and until last year, I thought all of that was just the price of a community pool. My wife, Maya, is a database architect who can turn panic into bullet points before I can find my keys. Our boy, Evan, is 14 and the bravest person I know, and in the weeks before a big operation, he needed a pump running through the night to keep his system steady. If you've never met our HOA president, picture a cheerleader who traded pom-poms for a binder, crisp polos, laminated everything. A smile that never touches her eyes. Her name is Colleen Pratt, and yeah, we knew each other years ago, when I worked county planning. She floated a couple of late-night report checks. I flashed my ring and went home to my wife. No drama, no scene. But some folks take a closed door as a dare. The petty stuff started the day we moved in a $25 ticket, because our trash cans were visible at 9:12 a.m. When the rule said 900 oil drip on the driveway, $50 a warning, because our basketball hoop wasn't mad enough a letter about a rose trellis. Like I had smuggled in a weapons system, I paid the little fines, told myself this was neighborhood tax. You know what I mean? Then at 3:07, one Tuesday morning, a sound like a robot bird dying yanked me out of bed, not the fire alarm. Scream thinner and needier. That pump's backup battery had kicked on. Our house was dark. The street wasn't. I took a flashlight outside in socks and found the line running to the small medical UPS cut clean, not chewed, not frayed. A crisp bite, like someone used heavy cutters. Copper winking at me, like a row of tiny teeth. My hands shook while I taped a temporary fix, and by 5:12, a white envelope appeared on our door with the Southgate heron glaring up at me inside. Was a violation for unapproved exterior wiring. Section 8. Article 3. Remedy. Remove immediately. $100 signed in that sharp little valley of ink. Colleen Pratt, President, time-stamped 5 minutes after my fix, and the envelope flap was still damp, like she'd been standing there in the dark, watching me. Maya read it, went very still, and said the thing I didn't want to say out loud. This isn't about aesthetics. It's about control. That afternoon, a private ambulance was scheduled to do a dry run to St. Barrow Hospital, so transport on surgery day would be muscle memory. The rig rolled up to the gated entrance and just sat there, honking. At nobody, my phone rang, "Sir, your gate code isn't working." I gave him the code again. No luck. Maya was already in the resident portal and said an admin changed the guest list at 6:04 a.m. Username, C. Pratt. So I jogged to the gate, waved the ambulance in with my clicker, and on the way back, I passed Colleen on her Power Walk bottle in one hand like a gavel. Morning. Grant, looks like your wire situation resolved itself, she sang. And I heard myself say, we added a camera, she blinked, then tried to pivot into, cameras. Require architectural review. Section 10, Article 2. And I said I read your book, then went home and stared at that stupid envelope until the math added itself up inside. Power cut, plus outside access, blocked, plus the smile of a person who enjoys watching you get small. The next morning we were at the courthouse, and if you've been in one, you know the smell paper that remembers other people's hands. Stale coffee living in the carpet. Maya handed me a folder thick enough to stop a bullet. Photos of the cut wire, the time-stamped fine. The gate logs, a spreadsheet of every petty notice since we moved in, and a letter from Evan's doctor explaining why uninterrupted power mattered. We asked for an emergency protective order. No contact. The judge looked like a man whose hobbies had been stolen by his job. Squinted, asked 2 questions. Signed that paper should have felt like a wall to me. It felt like a screen door. After lunch, I walked 3 houses down to see Hank Morales, a retired state trooper who replaced golf with cameras. He poured iced tea that looked tactical and rolled back his monitors to 2:30 a.m. At 2:41. A midnight blue Acura TLX drifted down our street with its lights off and parked in the shadow between lampposts. A person with a hood up cut toward the narrow side yard. Where that line runs 10 minutes later, she came back, and the car eased away. Hank paused as the brake light flared and zoomed in on a faded oval bumper decal. Raven County Recycling. Then clicked a clip of Colleen's driveway from last week. Same car. Same decal. He didn't gloat. Just slid a flash drive toward me and said, "Take it." You know what I mean. Sometimes you don't need the movie. You only need the frame that tells the truth. 36 hours later, we were at St. Barrow, trying to act normal for Evan. Nurses moved with that soft competence that makes you want to name a holiday after them. One set the pump that would carry him through surgery. Naomi Brooks walked in. With eyes that read a room like a ledger, the pump chirped, tiny polite, and the nurse tapped to silence it, but Dr. Brooks leaned in and started tapping through hidden menus. Then she turned and asked very quietly, "Who changed this dosage?" The nurse said. I said it. And Casey verified. And Dr. Brooks said. Then someone accessed it after you. The decimal is off by a factor of 10. If we started the line, he would have gone into arrest. That word does not belong in a pediatric room. It sits in your throat like ice. She squeezed my shoulder and snapped into motion lock. This room, pull the audit log. Call security, call the police, code gray. And the door hissed shut, while a guard planted himself outside like the wall. I wished that paper had been. The audit trail showed a second access. 8 minutes after the nurse's entry. No staff badge scanned. Security rolled a monitor in, and Maya scrubbed the hallway feed like she was building another database. Nurses in and out at a dad. With a balloon that said, "You got this." A volunteer with a cart then. Maya froze the frame. A woman in a borrowed volunteer vest walking away from our door with a cobalt cardigan. Bright under the cream fabric, she turned her head just enough. And there she was, Colleen. No binder, no polo. Just that same, almost smile. The security officer radioed, and a detective named Lieutenant Andrea Cole stepped in. Watch the clip, once said. That's attempted homicide and a protective order violation, and started calling units like she was born under fluorescent lights. All units be advised. White, female. Late 50s, cobalt cardigan. Volunteer, vest suspect. Colleen Pratt, contain exits. Do not approach alone. Somewhere a door slammed. Somewhere else. A walkie crackled. Evan's hand. Found mine, and he asked if we were okay. I said yes, because the doctor caught it. And sometimes, yes is the only gift you have to hand your kid. Then the fire exit at the end of the hall eased shut. On a whisper. "There," I said, and the guard launched like a sprinter. Lieutenant Cole and 2 uniforms were already moving. I followed not because I'm fast, my knees sound like a bag of walnuts on stairs, but because sometimes your body answers before your brain finishes the question. The stairwell turned every step into a drum. 2 flights down, a flash of cobalt, Colleen paused on the landing and saw me. The look on her face was the same one I'd seen years ago over a zoning map. Injured, pride sharpened into a blade. "You," she hissed. "You ruined my life. You did this to yourself," I said. "You always needed a rule to hide behind." She tried to slip past the officer coming up. Shoe skidded on steel tread. Hands cuffs, the red light on the body. Blinking like a small heartbeat. Lieutenant Cole didn't gloat, didn't raise her voice. "You're under arrest, don't speak." Then she looked at me and said, "Go back to your son." Back in the room, the air had that after-storm hush, Doctor. Brooks said, "He's safe, we'll reschedule and do it right." Security printed stills, hospital. Legal pulled logs, the pump left under evidence tape, and I sat in a plastic chair watching my kid sleep, as if nothing in the world had almost tilted, thinking about a cut wire, a gate code, and a smile that liked watching people shrink. On paper, the story ends with cuffs clicking in a stairwell. And yeah, that happened. But stories also live in how a neighborhood decides who gets the master codes, who can knock at 5 a.m., who turns safety into a scavenger hunt. I'm not here to declare all HOAs evil, or to pretend. Rules don't matter. I build decks and believe in rail heights. Rails keep you from falling. But a rule isn't a knife, and a gate isn't a choke point, and a title does not make you a parent in someone else's home. That click was the sound of a person finally meeting the same order she claimed to love. Not the kind that polices trellises, the kind that stops people from hurting kids. And that for me was enough. I'm going to leave you with that click, with the cobalt sleeve caught in the body cam's reflection, with the hallway lights finally taking a breath, and ask you this: where do you draw the line between order and overreach, between community and control? Tell me if you've seen an HOA do real good or real harm. What they got right, where they went too far, and what you would have done when that little pump started chirping. Drop your story in the comments. Argue with me if you need to hit. Like and subscribe if you want more true stories told plain, and tell me honestly, is a fine for a life-saving wire ever about paint colors, or is it about power? You know what I mean?